always been you've had the same renter in there, and they're paying you $1,000 a month every month, and you're just happy because they're paying you $1,000 a month, and you don't have to go in there and you don't have to worry about maintenance or whatever. All right, so yeah, where I was at, Bill, was we're at a historical kind of reset, and this is as this podcast takes off, I imagine this is going to go into 2030, 2040, 2050, whatever. There's going to be thousands of episodes of this, and I know, and somebody's going to listen back to 2026, and they're like, "Who's this idiot Kurt talking on this podcast?" So cheers to that.
No, but yes, 2026 is it. We don't know with everything going on geopolitically, like we just don't know.
And we've had a little bit of reset. I mean, in our local market, we saw rates, typically jump up to 8% on a 25-year amortization, a 5-year balloon type of thing. We've come back down a little bit, and maybe where we're sitting right now is 6 to 7%, 6-7.
Yep,
we love 6. Anyways,
what's dumb is that was a thing. Now it's
right. 5 years ago, a lot of these investors, they were buying great properties at great prices, and they were going to banks and they were getting a rate at 4%, 3.5%, whatever it was. So now we're hitting this balloon. Balloon is an important topic, and Bill already talked about it. Typically in investor real estate, you have an amortization that goes 15, 20, 25 years, but you have a rate reset after 5 years. So now we've hit the point where we're up against this 5 years now. We're, after 2021, we're 2026. And this rate is 6%. So we're going to go back to our debt service. Maybe your income has an increase in this property, and it's always been you've had the same renter in there, and they're paying you $1,000 a month every month, and you're just happy because they're paying you $1,000 a month, and you don't have to go in there and you don't have to worry about maintenance and do whatever. But guess what? Now the bank is calling and saying, "Hey, we have to reset your rate," and all of a sudden, this property went from a 4% interest rate now to a 7% interest rate. That's going to affect your debt service coverage ratio, because again, we go back to the definition of our debt service coverage ratio. It's your net operating income divided by your debt expense. And all of a sudden, people are going, "Oh crap, I don't meet the bank minimum anymore because I was just at a 120 to 1, and I've been paying my debts, I've been doing whatever, and now my monthly expense to the bank has gone up, but my income hasn't gone up." So
I'm guilty of this.
Yeah. So there's a reset happening out there, and that leads us into, okay, as a banker, as you're analyzing this, it's not just a good deal today isn't necessarily a good deal always.
Yes.
And so how do you prepare yourself through sensitivity analysis that maybe the market rate crashes? I remember when I got into banking, everybody was into Arizona because the market had just crashed.
Yep.
So
everyone's still into Arizona.
Yeah, you could buy $1 million property at one point. That was $1 million piece of property.
No property taxes
for $250,000. Like, oh, we're going to go down there. We're going to buy all this property. We're going to do all this stuff. It was a great deal, but yeah, markets crash. Markets rebound. There's different flows, and as an investor, you have to be prepared for these other external things that you cannot control. And again, interest rates, you can't control interest rates. It's going to be dictated by geopolitical. It's going to be dictated by other market effects. Your local economies and your housing market is going to be dictated by how many new units went on board, and how many are coming offline, how many are in this income
increased
class.
Maintenance costs, increased siding, windows, roofing, increased. Yep.
So you have to always be thinking not just necessarily it's a good deal today, but will this be a good investment in 5 years, 20 years, 25 years, and will it continue to provide me that passive
Yeah.
income.
The long term. Yeah. So you've hit on so many subjects right there, because that is one of the things like we need to be communicating with our bankers on. Like I knew my 5-year balloon was ending on a duplex, and I knew I had a 3.5 fixed for 5 years. I was like, perfect. It allowed me to get my largest asset, which has my highest ROI of anything I have. So I was like, it was worth it. But now I've run up against that timeline. I'm like, okay, I'm refinancing from a 3.5 to a 6.75. So on interest only, my payment jumped $400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm putting it into a mortgage, not a commercial, because it was like, okay, at this point, I might as well just lock this in. I'm gonna cash, like my debt service ratio is gonna be like 1 point less than 1. Like I'm still cash flowing, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just trying to communicate like what is to be the best option, trying to plan. I remodeled it, I improved it so that the rent is going up, but rent moves slower than my 5-year balloon. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be really tight. And then as we adjust rate, as we adjust for the improvements, like in a year and a half, 2 years, when I get the rent fully up another $200, $300, $400, I'm good.
So you brought up a very good point, Bill. So often, investors will come into a bank wanting the most liberal terms, and I don't mean liberal in a political sense. I want to say liberal in the form of I need to have a 25-year amortization. I need to have the less amount of rate. I want the least amount of cash into this project, but yet that is not always the best case scenario. And sometimes a good banker will tell you, this isn't for you, right? because you're asking for this, you're not ready for that downturn, right? So when that downturn does happen, that renter moves out, and this is across the board. It doesn't have to be, we're talking a lot of single family stuff, but this could be commercial properties. Maybe you have a strip mall, and maybe you have five doors in this strip mall, and you have a leaser that is paying you X amount, and all of a sudden that person moves out for a year, right? And you're just not prepared for that downturn. And so you always have to be in a good banker will, it's going to sound terrible, right? Like, why is this guy such a downer? why is he always looking out for the worst case scenario?
Through it.
Right. And so again, I'll go back to maybe one of the first things we said in our first segment was, a banker may not have gone through it. Maybe he's a brand new banker. Maybe he's only been a banker for 1 or 2 years, but his institution is telling him, we have this policy that's set up that we can only lend up to 75%. And again, that's based off of long-term averages and mitigating risk and not putting people out of business. A bank doesn't make any money by putting anybody out of business.
Correct. They don't want to own the asset. Nope. They don't. Their job is to help people succeed.
Yep, 100%. So these are just prudent things that have been proven over year. And again, I will never walk into a room. I'll never be the smartest person in that room. I'm the third smartest person in this room, and there's only 3 people in this room. We don't have to be smart. We just have to follow policy of what's been proven over year for the last however long. And renting properties is not new, right? Investing into whatever is not new.
Yep.
There's nothing that's new creative. I don't know if there's anything that's like cutting edge about being an investor that you have to have figured out. You just have to understand the numbers.
I mean, full disclosure on this. Most of investing is just squirreling your money away because you can't spend it. That's literally what a financial planner's first job is. Mm-hmm. Just to take money from you so you don't spend it.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put money into savings properly, you'd probably be okay. Like it wouldn't be growing, and that's a whole separate thing. The second part of financial planning is making that money work for you. Mm-hmm. And so, like most people, if they just didn't spend all their money every month, they would be living a way better life. But we like to go to the movies. We like to buy those nice toys. We like to do those things. So the second part is like, where are you going to put that money to grow? So real estate has a bunch of different levers. We get depreciation, we get tax benefit, we get just a lot of different cash flow, of course, and appreciation. That stock. If you make money on stock, you have to pay tax. Like that's it. You don't get and you can't leverage stock. So there's a lot of reasons for it.
Yeah,
But
there's something cool about being able to go to the Christmas party and talk to your uncle and say, God, I bought 1,000 shares of Nvidia, and you look like a genius, but really you have no influence on any of it. Right?
Yeah, no, it's just one of those, in the scope of investing, because it doesn't have to be real estate. We love real estate investing. We live and breathe it. But really it's just putting it somewhere you can't spend it. But then real estate offers this proven track record, over 800 years of success and wealth building, which is different than just money. So
800 years. Do you remember back 800 years ago?
I have a question for you two now that I have a realtor and a banker in front of me. What's up with the Fargo deal? Because I'm just trying to scratch my head around it. And I know we're in Bismarck right now, but like Carly's going out there, our daughter, she's going out there for school, and it's a college, NDSU. So it's like we wanted to focus on getting a property for her. And we're going out there and we're looking, and we're like literally 5 blocks. And we're looking at like, me and the wife drove out there for a day and a half and looking at these properties. And they're anywhere ranging from 110 to 170. And it would be like a $200,000 house here. And it's like, they're not destroyed. Like some of them have some, kind of awkward basement, like that Texas Chainsaw Massacre type vibe. But it's like, they're not like out of line, but I'm just like, I don't know. We almost closed on one, but then the more we thought about it, was like, it's in Fargo. So it's like, I have to go out there and do the work on it. And it's not a lot of work that was needed, but it was like, so, we kind of got cold feet on the deal, but I thought it was a decent deal for her to be out there for 6 years for pharmacy school. But it's like, do you guys know anything of why like these properties are like?
let's start with context. Fargo is the largest city in North Dakota. It's 200 miles east of Bismarck, which means at 80 miles an hour, it takes 2.5 hours to get to. But it is the largest town, has a sister city, Moorhead. It's a very progressive town. It has Microsoft offices, hospitals, which service basically a 100-mile radius. So it has a lot of economic drivers. Plus, it's some of the most fertile soil in North Dakota in the country. So there's a lot of good things going there.
Out there that we're looking at are like people buying it for their college kids, and the college kids go there and then they just sell it right away. They just drop it. So it's like, that's the vibe I get, but I just didn't know. This is kind of off topic, but I just seeing what you guys think about it.
Well, do you have any experience in the Fargo market?
It's cyclical, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying that it's cyclical.
But
It's all good.
it's like,
Let me say that into the microphone.
I
really
think
close,
everything that
right?
I personally, when I view the real estate investing, this is kind of the point I'm driving home, is I view kind of the real estate market as a long-term game. Yeah. Like you can't just go in and go out and expect to flip a buck on it, except minus flipping, obviously, but like to invest on it. But maybe I'm out of line, but it's like, that's what I think is happening out there, but I don't know what you guys think about it. And you can keep going with what you were going.
No,
we're
good.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to add up just a little bit more context of where I was going with the story.
As a banker, I don't necessarily love, and this is me personally, there's probably other bankers that had different
This was
opinions.
the other point, was I felt like it was a short term, so I'm trying to rile you both up with this short term type.
I don't necessarily love short term flipping ideas, and we're going to be in this for a short time, but not a long time, right?
And there's a difference between the 90-day flip versus the 4-year, 3-year flip, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I don't even remember are you guys country music fans?
I like it all. Dad always said variety is the spice of life.
Okay, there's one country singer. God, his song was, I've never went to bed with an ugly woman, but I've woke up with a few. I think you can apply that to real estate too. I mean, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna see these things, you're gonna like, oh my God, this is a 10. This is a 10.
Yeah.
I need to be into this
Excitement
thing
and all this stuff. Yeah.
and again, but like you talked about, like and luckily you have the skills and you have the knowledge to walk into a place.
I don't have the
and,
time anymore is the problem.
right, but you can walk into a place and say, hey, this has deferred maintenance on this is a risk. I really don't want to put my daughter at a risk of what is the asbestos or black
Yeah.
mold or any of this
Yep.
stuff, right? And maybe you're forcing some of that stuff out in this market. But I don't know. I just if it looks like a 10, there's probably some other things you can discount off of it because
Mhm.
it's probably not a 10.
Yeah. And there's a few other things happening out there. I mean, there's a lot of sophisticated investors out there. They obviously had the same crash of a very large investment company that was developing a lot. So that kind of fire sailed a bunch of things. So, and this is really, I'm not going to answer your question specifically, but
I don't know if it was a question or
but-
just kind of an idea, just to.
But this is why it's
conversation
so
topic.
good to have that your power team is how I called it when I was training or when I train investors, because like I can talk about Bismarck, I can talk about Mandan, I can kind of talk about even rural communities as we expand as a realtor, but also as property management. But it's like I can't tell you what it smells like to walk on First Ave in Fargo, but in Bismarck can be like, oh yeah, you're gonna get some drifts off 3rd Street and whatever. Like, so you want that pro in the area, and then really like speculative, meaning like, oh, I think it's gonna grow here. Oh, I think this is gonna happen. Like, I had a set of flippers. We bought a house. It was one of the largest houses on the block, and I was like, okay, just know, having the nicest house on the block is already a red flag. But inventory is low, so we can try it. What we didn't predict is that interest rates went from 4 to 7 while they're flipping it. So now we had the largest, and then they flipped it, so the nicest house on the block, and it was like, okay, like we couldn't predict this. On paper, it was a solid home run. It's like, oh my God, we're getting a steal of a deal. The repairs weren't massive, but 6 months later, the monthly payment went from like $1,400 to $2,400 for the same property. It was like, okay,
Your margin's gone.
yep, margin was gone. So I think they actually ended up selling with maybe losing a little bit, but that was scary. I mean, that was stressful. And that's kind of flipping as its own thing. We don't really talk about it much because property management, we're long term.
Yeah, it's long term. Yeah.
And actually kind of getting onto that, you talked about it, but one of the things we've done successfully when we had those owners who were like, oh my God, I'm sick of the property. First, we had to get out the problem tenants. Then we had to even just bring the building back to stable. But then we're like, hey, let's throw some furniture in here. You're close to the hospitals. Let's make this a furnished rental. Not necessarily an Airbnb. We did Airbnbs. That's a whole different business model. And then we did like traveling nurses, contractor. And then we were able to force that rent up another 50, 60%, depending on the units. But then the property value responded as well. So a lot of those owners who came to us scarred and bleeding from just mismanagement stabilized the building and then improved it, and they're like, I can sell my place for what?
Mm-hmm.
And then of course then there's a flip-flop of that. So okay, now the rent is above and beyond what market is, and then we'd sell it, and then their lender would look and be like, prove it. And we'd say, okay, here's the rent rolls. Like, here's how much money came in from Airbnb or our other rental softwares. Like, yeah, this thing that used to only make $2,800 is now making $4,400, which same structure, same amenities. All we did is throw $2,500 of furniture in there, kind of change who our target market was. And, I know one time I literally was at the bank with one of our clients, Harmon. Avenue, if you remember that. And I was like, wow, as he's paying us back for the furniture, it's like, remember that time you gave me 3,000, made an extra 60,000?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, that's kind of one of the fun sides of it. Like when we know that things are changing, like, okay, obviously property taxes are up 3, 5, 8%. Insurance over the last few years went up drastically. Water bills went up. And it was like, okay, we're losing to just what's happening in our city, just things we can't control. So we need to think of new ways to increase rent without just, hey, your rent was 1,000, now it's 1,200, because they're gonna be like, screw that. I'm gonna go one house over and get 1,000 for the same thing, same era, same finishes.
Mm-hmm.
So that adds to it, but we also have to have proof that it actually is happening, because I don't expect you to look at, oh, weird, you rented out one bedroom of your house, now it's worth 10x more than that rent. Like that's not practical or real.
Yeah. But bankers are really numbers based, right? And again, there's the touchy feely stuff that we could do this, we could do that, but again, it's numbers based, and at the end of the day, prove it, right? Any borrower that comes into any bank, like, give us his historical, where you've made improvements, and yeah, if we can support it, let's do it, right? And we're going to have, we've already talked about a very few number of metrics that we have to hit, right? Our net OI, our NOI, our debt service coverage. We're looking at some sensitivity, but it's pretty simple. So,
well, how early should someone, like, the 5-year balloon is pretty common. When would you suggest someone start coming back to you and say, like, hey, I know it's coming in 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, like what? And I know it's going to vary based on, like, is it commercial, what's going on in the market, but like, just, should we be checking in with you every year? Should we be checking you, like, what makes sense?
well, just figure that your mortgage and your loan agreement probably lay out a 5-year plan.
Yep.
Right. So the person that comes in and says, well, hey, we just booked this in, today's April 24th. We just booked this in, February 24th. We're a couple months into this. I heard rates went down. Let's readjust our rate. That is one of the most annoying things. That, again, you have a contract. You don't go back to you buy an auto from somebody and you locked in for 5 years. And you don't go back to them and say, yeah, rates went down, now rebook my auto. So that's one of the most annoying. And a banker will never call you and say, guess what? You booked this in February. Now it's April, and the rates actually are indicatively higher. Let's rebook this.
Yeah.
Right?
I would love my commission again. Let's go.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way, right? So yeah, live it out. You at the time, with the information that you had, you booked this deal and you said, hey, this is a fair market deal. And now our numbers support this. The bank's numbers support this. Let's live this out. Let's make sure we have our tenants in there. We make sure we have our expenses under control. Let's do this. I would say 6 months, and you should probably be talking, if you're looking at other properties, you're looking at other things, you're looking at other just things that are going on, and you should have at a minimum a once a year conversation with your banker. At a minimum. If not, and there's capacity issues and there's different things, but maybe it's sooner than that.
Yep.
But prior to that loan maturing, you should be talking to your banker at that 1 year prior, and then as it gets closer, 6 months before. Okay, where are interest rates at? What is my expected? Where am I going to be at on my debt service coverage? Where am I going to be at on this? As an investor, you should be asking your banker these type of things, right? So how can we project this? And do I need to start positioning my tenants with a higher? Do I have to start positioning and getting more income from them? Do I need to be negotiating different things with, and I hate to say it, with my property managers? Because have we looked at this in the last 5 years? Have we negotiated any of these other terms? And so where are we at, and is this property still profitable? And you can't be emotionally tied to any one property. You just can't, right? Maybe if your grandma owned it and you bought it from your grandma because she was going to give it to you over steel, and it's been in your family for 3, 4, 5 generations.
It's your emotions with that.
Yep, that's one way.
I can take this keychain in my pocket right now and just be emotionally attached to it, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's just,
So you, as an investor, you can't be necessarily emotionally tied to any one property. And if the conversation turns and it's not profitable for you anymore, and you're having to pull money, and we're going to go back to this DTI, like your income now, your personal income is having to support this property and to do whatever. Okay, let's push pause, and maybe it's time to sell this thing, right? Let's emotionally detach from this, and not, hey, this supported my income for 2-3 years, maybe it doesn't anymore. And so let's use that equity, remove that property from our portfolio, and move on to the next one.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and actually we have an article on our website about this, because it's like, what's return on equity or return on ROI, return on investment? What am I making based off what I spent versus return on equity? Because there's some deals, especially if they do like a 15-year amortization, aka, you're aggressive on it, you found a really good deal. Sometimes it's like, you know what? You've had this property for 15 years, 10 years. It's gone so much up. Like, you have 300, 400, 500,000 just sitting here, but you're still only making 20 grand in rent.
Yep.
But you have 100, 150 grand just sitting here, and you're like, you're now making 2% return. Like,
let's get out of it.
Yeah. Like, you might want to actually park that somewhere else where you can reset that table, start making some additional money. So there's the, refinance interest rate doesn't work that we were just talking about, but sometimes there's just, you have so much equity parked in this thing, you're actually losing opportunity. Like, you could be putting this in a high yield savings account just because like it's sitting so well.
Yep.
But it goes both ways. Like, I just want this to go negative all the time. It's like, no, there's two paths. Like, they all have margin. It's just, yeah, sometimes you have to sell because it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes that money has better use elsewhere. And that's all the stages of an investor's life too, though. Like, a newbie trying to get doors and add shingles. Is that the term?
Yeah. Let's add shingles.
Add shingles.
Stack shingles.
Stack shingles. There we go.
Yeah, SS. We're SSing.
All right. Versus like, if you're trying to get to the part of your life where you just want the rental income for your retirement, you don't necessarily need new doors. You're just, I want this to pay for the lifestyle I have. I want to be in warmer climates. But that relationship makes it easier, because then you can say like, oh, hey, like, I know you want to tackle this and whatever, but are you willing to put in the work? Because we get deals all the time where someone's like, hey, I'm thinking about this. And we look at it, it's like $150,000 to fix this thing up, to get it to where it's that. But it's like, well, we can only get a loan for what it's doing now. And we have to stick in 150 to get it to where it should be, with the deferred maintenance. Like, okay, like, we can find the people that have one or the other, but are they willing to stick in the time and work?
Right.
I mean, that affects buildings, it affects trailer parks, it affects storage units, it affects multifamily, even single. I mean, it's across the board. So there's a lot of variables, but that's why you talk to realtors, property managers, bankers, because the whole goal is like, none of us want you to lose. Like, we're not like, if we fail you don't make money, and you give us a 1-star review.
Yep.
Like,
you'll never come back. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So do you have like a knock it out of the park success story that you're willing to share? No names, no nothing, but I mean, just where like, you help someone kind of warm up to the idea, walk them through, and you just, something that you can't share, because obviously I don't.
Nope, never done it.
Oh, dang it.
No, I just stuck here in theory. I've never
You read a
done
book.
read a book. Yeah. No, there's multiple, and we can go from the guy that walks in the door with, like you said, starry-eyed, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and again, like, I've helped him or her, hey, let's do this as an LLC. right? Let's don't do it on your personal. Let's figure this out right, and let's whatever. And again, a banker will always caveat it like, hey, we don't give attorney advice, we don't
Yep.
give tax advice, we don't whatever. And but no, there's been some really really cool ones. I'm going to go back to when I first started, and I remember this gentleman, and he brought in his personal financial statement.
All right.
And
Yep.
this is probably a whole different subject that you know, as a banker, I advocate 100% for. If you haven't ever done your personal financial statement and you don't know where you sit today with your assets and your liabilities and what's making you money and what's not making you money, reassess everything you're doing. Like,
They'll have an article on this on our website.
yes, just do the exercise once a year. You don't have to do it daily, you don't have to do it monthly. Just take a snapshot year over year and make sure that you're growing, right? Make sure that what you're doing is having a positive impact on your retirement plan, as having a positive impact on whatever. And if you have a setback, whatever, that's fine. It happens because of market fluctuations, whatever. But do your personal financial statement. But anyways, this gentleman walked in, and I was young and starry-eyed. I was probably, you know, whatever. He had all this stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you have all of these properties. You had 15, 20 properties, and none of them were like sexy by any means, but he was just generating solid income. And I was like, I asked the guy, I was like, what do you do? He's like, I don't do nothing. He's like, other people do this stuff for me. And that's when I was introduced to other people's money. And as a banker, it's like, this is possible, right? This is before, you know, the YouTube, before the AI,
Yep.
before all this stuff. It's like, okay, this is possible. So he got into these properties at a reasonable value. He found great tenants. He found a great property management company. He found all these people that can help support him, and attorneys and accountants, and set everything up. And the guy at that age, and I was probably in my 20s. This guy was in his, you know, 40s at that time. And there's this retirement term, I think it's called FIRE, right? And I'm not going to be able to tell you what.
We'll add it to the screen. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. FIRE.